Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, students, this is lecture number 14 on postmodern fiction. And again, in today's discussion, we are going to discuss the novel of Arundhati Roy, God of Small Things. Students, today's lecture is much important because it is different from our previous lectures. In today's lecture, I am going to tell you how can you derive some questions from a novel. Okay, students, for today's discussion, I have some thematical knowledge of God of Small Thing, and then I suggest some questions regarding this thematical knowledge. So for this thematical knowledge, I delimit love relationships, family influence, and gender politics in God of Small Thing, and political and social structures, communism, caste, and religion. Students, in the God of Small Things, Roy foregrounds how private love relationship are actually socially and politically regulated as stated in her definition of love laws, which lay down who should be loved and how much, reversing the natural uncontrollability of who to love, in what way and to what extent, results in equally unnatural subversions and collisions of law relationship. Students, romantic, sexual, platonic, and familial love relationship in the God of Small Things become intermixed, perverted, and destroyed by social politics. Students, these social politics include the novel's primary focus of caste and religion, as well as politics working underneath the surface such as gender. Students, importantly, in the novel, social politics are often enforced by the family even to their own determined and ultimately expose the reactionary violence of reciprocal state and family policing structures. Because the agent for these social politics in the family itself, we can trace these unnatural results through reworking of love relationship with the family and implicating the family. Students, alongside the explicit influence that caste and religion play in dictating the personal relationships of the characters in the God of Small Things, gender is an implicit though central context. Gender plays an important role in family and social dynamics that regulate love relationships. Gender is an organizing social structure that dictates power relations within individuals' private lives. Students, to examine how the family and state reciprocate the enforcement of social politics about love, and how love relationships can be subverted under these pressures, to focus on the category of gender as an integral element in the various intersections of the family, love, and sex, we are going to discuss the God of Small Thing in a critical way. The central love relationship that disrupts social politics in the God of Small Thing is the sexual and romantic attraction between an untouchable towards an upper caste Syrian Christian woman. This affair disrupts social politics about inter-caste and cross-religious mixing. Students, this affair threatens these systems' prominence in post-independence India. To intervene, the communal family operates as agents of the state who manipulate real and contrived violence and political court. For example, Ammu's mother's Mamachi learns of Ammu's affair with Velutha from Velutha's father. So, baby Kochama, the grand aunt, rushes to the Astha line to the police. After strategic to the police station, rushes to the police station with a false rape charge that legitimates by making Ammu's children, Rahim and Astha, lie to the police. After strategic familial attempts to re-establish other, Ammu's brother separates Ammu from Astha and banishes her, thus causing Ammu to die alone in poverty a few years after. Multiple love relationships are intermixed, perverted and destroyed in the process of reinforcing love laws. Students, romantic love, sexual love and desire are normally categories that seem distinct from familial love. Familial love relationship, including parent to child and sibling to sibling, lack a sexual component because they are platonic. However, when the family acts as agent of the state for enforcing social politics, these demarcations become intermingled. The family regulates Ammu's sexuality and sexual relationship with Velutha. Astha and Rahim ultimately have an incestuous encounter. Familial love relationships between family members, traditionally based on care, support, and protection, can break down. In addition to the breaking down of familial love relationships, the family can literally divide. In the story, we may find Ammu and baby Kochama make Rahim and Astha lie to the police, a lie that damages the children emotionally and psychologically. And Ammu's brother separates Ammu from Astha, then banishes her, thus causing Ammu to die alone in poverty a few years later. Now we discuss future love. Roy shows how the destruction and subversion of current love relationship can thwart future love relationships. In this regard, in the story we may find Astha never marries and lives socially isolated. Rahil never leaves home and feels a permanent emptiness that thwarts her and her one marriage. Students, the family pivotal policies, religious and caste policies, shaping personal love relationships through political code, operating within the more transparent politics of caste and religion, is gender politics. So what is gender politics? In the novel, the parents contrive rape accusation to conceal and deny the woman's taboo sexual attraction to the socially subjugated male. Such an attraction from a woman to a man of a lesser social strata threatens a stable definition of citizen and the circumscribed parameters of women's political and sexual power. The regulation of women's sexualities catalyzes the novel's plots and receives equal judgment by the family and society. The family policies are moved through the family's internal violence. Thus the woman's plot line privatizes legal violence not simply through false rape trial but through the family's operations as agents of the state. So in this regard, we may find after a period of berating Velutha, Ammu focuses her disgust on her daughter, redirecting sexual blame onto the woman. and the parents focus on the woman's sexual desire as point of contestation, demonizes women's sexuality, and validates their physical and family punishment. So in this regard, students, you may focus on the questions like analyze the phrase love loss. Does Roy's rhyming pair of words seem inherently contradictory in meaning? Why would Roy use the term law? Can social issues be policed by individuals? Does the family police law relationships as much as or more than actual law enforcement? Does the novel show that regulating who to love is ultimately successful? What are the unwritten love laws in the God of Small Thing? So students, the other question may be, how does the termination of Ammu and Veluta's love relationship affect other love relationships in the novel? Give some examples of the overlapping or intermixing of family, platonic love relationships and romantic sexual relationships. Why does Mamaji dismiss her son's sexual liaisons as men's need, but she does not tolerate her daughter's love affair? How does gender or the double standard operate in the family's response to Ammu's affair with Veluta? Is the destabilization of caste and religious mores the only reasons for their rejection of this love relationship? Or is gender a factor? Is caste and gender even the primary reason? Students, through such questions, you may understand any postmodern novel. Students, you can further interrogate how gender works in context of the God of Small Thing by looking at how critical reception of Arundhati Roy as an author contained elements of gender politics. For example, critics often focused on describing her attractive appearances and attributed her talents to influence by male authors, even though she only cites a few female authors as influences. How are some of the novel's gender politics regarding women's power, choices, sexuality, social status, and appearance re-articulated through Roy's reception as novelist? Students, I have another example regarding political and social structures, communism, caste, and religion in the God of Small Thing. In the God of Small Thing, Roy repeatedly demonstrates that the personal is political. Her characters' public lives and private lives are mediated by intersecting social, political, and religious structures that profoundly affect their behavior within and outside their homes, their relationships to other people, the jobs they perform, and their perceptions of the world. Students, critics such as Ijaz Ahmed have argued that Roy's portrayal of the Communism Party of India is spiteful. However, her depiction of the Syrian Christianity community to which the Ike family belongs is also highly critical of their assumed social superiority. Similarly, Roman Catholicism does not escape satire, as we see in Roy's tragicomic depiction of Baby Kochama's unrequited passion for Father Mulligan. Although Veluta is portrayed with considerable sympathy by Roy, he does not idealize untouchables in the novel. Veluta's own father, for example, finds it impossible to deny the social hierarchy in which he has grown up, betraying his own son when his illicit relationship with Ammuz is discovered. Students, in teaching you about these big things which affects the small things in the characters' lives, it is important to emphasize the complex relationship between these formative contexts. Communism, caste, or religion alone cannot explain how and why her characters act. Over time, these structures and beliefs have changed, overlapped, and reinforced one another. So students, in this regard, the story provides students with an overview of the overlapping social, political, and religious contexts for the God of small things, drawing attention to the ways in which these structures both reinforce and contradict one another. So students, using the material above, provide an overview of the intersecting social and political structure which Roy critiques in the God of Small Thing. We may derive the caste system, a traditional Hindu form of social organization which divides people into hierarchical groups. The caste someone is born into determines what occupation they perform, the kind of education they receive, if any, how they might dress, what they eat, and how they interact with others. Luther belongs to a large group of outcasts known as untouchables, who are deemed impure through their occupational contact with filth, dirt, bodily fluids, etc. Outlawed in the 1950s Constitution, caste prejudice still lingers in modern-day India. On the other hand, we may discuss the Syrian Christians. The Ike family belongs to this group, who trace their origins to the high caste Hindus believed to have been converted by Saint Thomas the Apostle early in the 1st century AD, when he is said to have visited Kerala. They are one of India's smallest religious minorities. Although Christian, they follow many Hindu social customs. They are fluent and highly educated, arresting a high social status based on their claimed upper caste Brahman ancestry. So students, the next point is communism. The Communist Party of India, CPI, formed in 1920 as the political party of the Indian working class. In the 1950s and 1960s, two distinct factions called the Communist Party Marxist, the CPM, and the Communist Party Marxist-Leninist. The CPML broke away from the other CPL. Much of the God of Small Thing is set in 1969, when the CPM-led transition to socialism. In contrast, the influence of the Naxalites, a much more radical wing of opposing CPML, was also beginning to the left in Kerala at this time. As the narrator says, when the Ike family are en route to the Salima in Cochin and their car is surrounded by protesting workers, there was an edge to the marchers' anger that was insolid and new. Students, in this regard, we may derive some of the questions like: how does the caste system affect the characters in Roy's novel? What does Roy's characterization of Velutha and his father suggest about her attitude to the caste system? What are the possible benefits and drawbacks of this kind of social organization? What kinds of things organize American society and how have these changes over time? Why is Amu and Valutha's relationship considered to be so outrageous? Why do you think this kind of intimate interaction between members of different castes is seen as dangerous by characters such as Mamaji and Baby Kochama? What are the other ways in which social structures are subverted in the novel? So students, in this regard, you people may derive the questions and answers from your novel. Okay students, see you in next class.